welcome Zane to the World XP podcast. It's been a pleasure. I've seen you posting some goofy content and TikToks that always give me a little micro chuckle. But I know you're involved in a couple other things. You got some Disney stuff going on as well.
Yeah, man.
But I appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know it was last minute, but glad to have you.
Yeah, man. I'm happy to be on World XP. I'm excited. I know you've been doing this for a while, so I'm excited to, be able to be a member of the podcast.
Yeah, for sure, man. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is I don't know, did you ever read a book series called Kingdom Keepers about Disney World?
I've heard of it. I have not read it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. So the first thing I thought of when you started doing all your Disney stuff was that series. Basically, what that series is like teenagers or like late teenagers who are in the park, and then the park comes alive at night. And I'm sure you've heard all the Disney sort of myths and legends
Oh
about
yeah.
like the different like hidden doors that Walt Disney put in and all sorts of stuff like that. So all that book series basically just goes into depth about that. And that was the first thing I thought of when you were like, yeah, I'm going down to Disney World.
Hey man, I mean, on it, I'll tell you something, because I did the Disney College program in 2019, and I'm about to start a new one. You do learn a lot, like of the secrets and things like that. The park doesn't come alive at night, as far as I know. Not to the extent that it does in the books, but there's definitely a lot of secrets and things that people talk about. Just as guests, and they think, oh, I wonder if this is true. And then as
Mhm.
employees, you find out that a lot of stuff is true.
Yeah, that's crazy. So like what is this college program, or like how did you get involved? What is it like? What does it entail? And how, I guess, also how did you find it slash what was your interest in it?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
I know a lot of people would you would say, "Oh, would you want to work for Disney?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, sure." And then that's the end of it. They don't actually go out and like do the research and figure out how to work for
Yeah,
Disney. But you
right.
actually did it. So kind of what does that entail, and what is the program actually all about?
Yeah, well, you make a really good point. I think working for Disney, kind of from the outside looking in, it's a very interesting idea for a lot of people, because Disney was in a lot of people's lives since they were kids. You know what I mean? We all grow up and we get to a point where, oh, I want to do this career. I want to be a real estate agent, or I want to be a CEO or something. But when we're kids, it's I want to be a ninja, or I want to be a superhero, or things like that. And I feel like what's cool about Disney and working for Disney is, for me, I went to the parks a lot when I was little. And so I kind of have always had like a sense of nostalgia from them, and just a love for Disney, because I also watched some of the movies and stuff like that when I was young. And I think for a lot of people, they are the same. And I think one thing that's interesting about starting either on the college program or starting to work for Disney is that that nostalgia factor is a reason for a lot of people, and why they start working for Disney. So I think that's one cool thing about, what you're saying, because you're totally right. A lot of people would say that sounds like an awesome idea because they have that nostalgia and stuff, and they have a history with Disney, but they just don't really go anywhere with it. For me, I did my college, or I learned about the college program because Mary Washington actually sent me an email. And not just me, but a bunch of people, they sent out an email and they said, hey, Disney's doing this internship. You should check it out. And interestingly enough, it was such a process to try to get credits for going on the program, considering Mary Wash they emailed me about it. But I had to do all this stuff to try to get like credits for it. I was like, why,
Yeah.
why did you tell me about this if you're gonna make it so hard for me to like actually for it to mean anything? Like, it's like, oh yeah, go do this. But like, if it means you're not going to be paying for credits from classes at our school, like, well, I don't know if we're gonna help you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they ended up giving me. I got 6 credits for it. Um, and I applied. The first time I ever applied was fall of 2018. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because that would have put you summer 2019 for being there.
Yeah. No, but you know what? No, yeah, okay, I was there in summer 2019, right? But I screwed up. I think I actually, when did I apply? I applied over a spring break. Spring break of my freshman year, I applied the first time. So I applied for spring break of my freshman year to go in the fall of my sophomore year, but I got declined because when I first applied for the program, and for anybody listening who's maybe interested, definitely know the application process. It's pretty thorough, and it's a cutthroat program. I think back when I first applied, there's somewhere between like 700 and 1,000 people accepted. And I think I saw some different stats that said like 10,000 people would apply each year. And so it's like a 10% of the people who apply get in kind of thing. Like there's a lot of people applying for not a lot of spots. And so Mary Washington told me about it. I applied once, didn't get in. And then the next semester I applied again. But the next semester I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and things and tried to make sure I like got my application perfect. And I got in, and I ended up being a custodian for my first job, my Disney college program job, my first time around.
Damn. So how did you end up like as when you're applying, are you applying for a specific job or are you applying for the
Yeah,
program itself? And
great
then
question.
if it's the program itself, how do they determine like where like
Yeah.
because I remember you came back to school the next fall and everybody was like, Zane cleaned toilets all summer.
Oh man,
Ah.
literally, bro. Yeah, I got that from my dad too all the time. I mean, that's what's tough is just to talk a little bit about custodian specifically. That's what everybody says, right? You're cleaning toilets, you're picking up trash. It's not a very glamorous job at all. But of any position of like, because there's a bunch of entry level positions. You can work merchandise, you can work an attraction, you can do that, you can be a lifeguard. There's so many different things. I mean, it's freaking Disney World. There's so many different positions. Custodial easily had the most freedom of any position because I wasn't locked to one place. If I'm a lifeguard, I'm surveying the pool for an 8-hour shift. If I'm on attractions, I'm standing at my attraction for an 8-hour shift. Maybe at different positions in the attraction, right? So maybe I'm operating the ride for 2 hours and then I'm working the queue line for 2 hours. And with merchandise, I'm just walking around my store for an 8-hour shift. But with custodial, let's think of it like Magic Kingdom because I think that's the one most people know. Let's
Yeah.
say I'm custodial, my shift is in Fantasyland. I can walk around the whole Fantasyland. The way it worked was on my phone. We have these little phones, and we would get a little notification when we have a specific thing to do. So it would be like, all right, you gotta get trash out of this can, this can, and this can. Get a notification on my phone. Okay, then I got to go do that, whatever. And then I just check it off when I've completed it. But what I got to do as a custodian was walk around. I could talk to guests. I was actually encouraged to talk to guests. They told us, and really this goes for any Disney employee, they want us to see a guest who looks confused and go up to them before the guest comes up to us and asks us. So like that's just kind of the Disney way, they don't want guests to have to come up to us. It's just the general way Disney operates. I think everybody understands that.
Mhm.
And like I say, I mean, I got to just kind of roam around, or I could say this family, oh, they say they want to go on Pirates of the Caribbean. I can walk them over there, and then I can ask the fast pass person, hey, I just walked this family over here. Do you think you can give them a fast pass? And that's something that these other people, your attractions, your merchandise, or whatever, they can't do that. They just have to stand. A merchandise person can't be like, do you want that T-shirt for free? Like it doesn't really work like that. But I had the opportunity to like actually provide families with valuable things on their trip. So that was a lot of fun with custodial. But back to your original question, which was
Do you
what?
apply for a certain position or how do they
Yes.
pick which ones you go into?
Yeah, so when you apply, and this year was a little different, but normally when you apply, they list every position out on the application, and you can check off high interest, mid inch, like medium
Kind
interest
of.
or low
Yeah.
interest, or
Hmm.
no interest. And again, just for anybody thinking about applying, you want to check high interest for as many as possible because they're really not looking for, well, I want to do merchandise but I don't want to do custodial and I don't want to work an attraction and I guess lifeguarding would. No, like they want really the college program, especially, you're a number. You're an employee, you're cheap labor, you know and at the end of the day, it's like they're not looking for somebody who's gonna pick and choose, this is what I want, because then they're just like, we got this person who we were thinking about cutting from the program, but they said they're down for anything. So we're just going to take that person instead. So normally you can say like high interest, medium interest, low interest, but they're looking for like high interest across the board, basically.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
then is it just kind of random selection? Like when they tell you you're in, it's like, oh, you've been accepted and you're going to be doing custodial.
Yeah. Well, this year is different because of, I think, COVID and stuff.
Hmm.
Well, COVID paused the program here for the past year, basically. And this year you don't even know your position when you get the offer. I don't even know what my position is yet, and I go in less than a month. Probably within a week or two of going, like my start date, I will get an email and they'll tell me my position. But in previous years, generally application process goes, you put in an application. If that looks good, you do what's called a web-based interview, which is just like a series of questions that you answer. And then if that goes well, you get a phone interview. And then on the phone interview, what I remember is they kind of asked me some questions that pertain to custodial a little bit. Like one of the questions was, what is it you, or they said you put high interest for custodial. Why, like, what is it about being a custodian that is appealing to you or whatever? And they would ask questions like that on interviews, and that's kind of how they would decide where they want to put you.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So, all right. So you get accepted, you get your position, and you're at the park, and you are roaming around because you're custodial and you're free and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
What is, I'm going to eventually get to later, what are the secrets, if you can
Okay.
tell? But you get to the park and you kind of your first couple days there, you're doing what? You're exploring, you're getting kind of on job training. What does that look like? Like, how do you develop your routine there? Because I would imagine not that it's too dissimilar from like other amusement park jobs or something like that, but
Right.
also at the same time, it probably has
It's Disney, right?
some stark differences
Yeah.
being Disney. So walk us through that like first week of experience and kind of what the stuff that you learned.
Yeah, well, the first week is an exciting time, I think, for anybody doing the college program, because you're getting your first taste of things, so to speak. You're going to Disney has this really cool casting building, and again, like anything with Disney, it's very Disneyfied. They don't. I will say this about Disney: they do care about their employees a lot. They might not pay them very much, I'll be honest about that. I don't get that much money, but they do care, and they really put in a lot of work in things like casting buildings and we call them backstage areas, but basically the parts where the employees will go for like the break rooms and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They put in a lot of effort into making those like sort of immersive so that you feel like you're a part of the whole Disney experience. You're not just an employee, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
So
not like
that's
you go into a cardboard box
yeah,
and
exactly.
get
You're
a
not just
water
going to like
bottle
a
and leave. Yeah,
trailer.
yeah.
Yeah, bull crap like that. No, no, no. But the first week is, from what I remember, you go and first, if you're living in their housing, because for the college programs, they have their specific housing. They actually just built this whole new one called Flamingo Crossing, and it's just going to have every Disney college program participant in it. Before there was like 3 different housing complexes for all the different participants, but now there's just one huge one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not living there, but I've been there before, and it is super nice. I mean, it's beautiful there. I mean, it was built in like 2020, I think, so it's super renovated, just very like high tech and stuff and modern. And you go there, you get your ID for the housing complex. So for me, since I'm living off property, it's probably just going to be like an events ID. So anytime they have events at the housing complex, I'll be able to go in to the events. So that's kind of my entry ticket. And then the first week, it involves like a lot of training. Disney has something called traditions. That's their orientation for their employees. And they kind of go over the history of Disney and sort of just the culture of being a Disney employee and different expectations they have for you. They include a tour of Magic Kingdom, kind of. And so one of the secrets that everybody, this is kind of a popular one that everybody wonders, is that there are indeed tunnels under Magic Kingdom that all of the employees go in and out of and stuff. Because it's interesting, in the other parks, there's just backstage areas. If you keep your eyes out when you go, you will see like there's little walls, right? And they don't really lead anywhere. It's like it'll just say on the wall, it won't just say employees only. It'll say like some Disneyfied thing, you know, um, fairy godmothers only or something like that. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
something that doesn't make it just obviously okay, only employees back here.
Sure.
But for Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios and Epcot, they have backstage areas because they just have more space, I guess. But with Magic Kingdom, you go backstage and then everything happens down underground in the tunnels. So that's your traditions. They tore you through the tunnels, and that was pretty cool because, I wasn't sure if they existed or not. And then after that, throughout the week, there's all these different things. You have a orientation for your specific park. So for me, when I was custodial, I worked in Animal Kingdom, and so I went through my orientation for, first of all, traditions, which is just everything, and then my orientation for Animal Kingdom specifically, which is like a tour around the park. They take you on one of the rides there. We went on the safari ride. They just had everybody basically just walk right through the line, just went on the safari ride. And yeah, so it's kind of just a few different types of trainings. It's like traditions, general training for everybody, your park training, which is they take you to the park, give you a tour, and then the last one is what was it? Is your job specific training. So then it's like for me being a custodian, they went over all the different protocols and procedures for doing the different tasks that we would do each day.
Gotcha. One thing that you mentioned earlier, and this is more for my own curiosity, to be honest, is when you get a notification on your phone
Yeah.
that says like pick up this
You
trash
know, a
can.
lot of people are very interested in the system. A lot of people
Do
I've
they
talked
have
to.
like for real? Do they have like weight stuff in the trash can, or like how do they know that it's full, or
So
how
there's
does that
little,
work?
it's interesting. And what's cool is like if a guest was to do this at the park, nobody would really stop them. But again, this is just all like little things to keep your eye out for. So if you look at the trash cans throughout the park, most of them, some of them are like maybe older, just different models. I don't know. But there's a little gray like tab on it. It kind of looks like, how doors will have those little push tabs on
Yeah,
them and you can just push through. It looks like one of those. And if you pull it, and then it'll open like a side door on the trash can. When you open it up, there's a little label on it. So for me, so the Kilimanjaro Safari, that would be, they would have cans in the queue line that I would have to clean out, and they'd be called like Safari T6. Okay. And then generally the notifications we get would be quote unquote trash runs. So it would be like the Kilimanjaro Safari queue line trash run. It would be like Safari T6, T8, T9, all that stuff. And basically there's a sensor at the top of the trash can that senses like when the can is full. I think just when like trash is stacked to the top,
was
basically.
it like
It's
a motion sensor or something? So when something like blocks it, then it's like, oh, it's full.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yep, that's exactly it. And so then we would just get a notification automatically that says, okay, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one are all full. Go clean them out. And that's pretty much how that would work. But it's interesting, if you go to Disney and you look for that little gray tab, you could literally, like, you're not going to be stopped by an employee or something. You could open it and just look at the little door, and you'd see on the label that's what that can is.
that's cool. I never that's something that you never like realize about behind the scenes, just how efficient. And I don't know if other parks have that sort of thing, but Disney specifically, how efficient everything is run from
Yeah.
the time. Like everything is always right on time. Everything is always. I think there's some. Obviously, correct me on the exact number, but the trash cans are what, like 29 feet apart, because there's some like
Yeah. So
some rule
basically
that people put them in the trash more instead of littering if they're not 30 or something like that.
well, little story for you, because we were told that. I don't remember which orientation it was at that they taught us. Walt Disney, when he first opened the parks, he did it kind of in a staggered manner. So he didn't just have like, okay, parks open, everybody come, anybody who wants to buy a ticket come in.
Mm-hmm.
He had I think like a few hundred people or 1,000 people, whatever, in Disneyland, because I don't think he was alive for the opening of Disney World, but for Disneyland, um, he had however many hundreds of guests come, and he didn't include any trash cans. So what he did was, I don't know how they did that, how they did it, because this was in like, I think the 50s was when Disneyland opened. They calculated how many steps on average each guest would take before just basically dropping their trash, because they sold food, they sold like hot dogs, and they basically said, okay, how many steps from the hot dog stand or whatever on average are guests just dropping their trash basically because there's no can. And then from there they got like whatever it was, 27, 28, 29 steps, and that's how they decided, okay, every 29, 28, 27 steps we're going to put in the trash can.
That's brilliant. And that's
Yeah.
something that you would never think of. Like, nobody would ever be like, yeah, I'm going to open a park with no trash cans.
Yeah, literally, if I was Walt Disney or whatever, I don't know how we ever thought of that, because I would have just put in trash cans and been like, all right, I guess like every 20 feet or something, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're not Walt Disney, and Walt Disney was Walt Disney.
Yeah, true, fair point.
So there was other about the park specifically in that book series and other things that I read, because I read that book series when I was like probably a teenager.
Mm.
And so some of the things that were in it, I was like, ooh, let me Google that and see if that's true or not. There were things about besides the tunnels, but there was stuff like in Magic Kingdom in the castle at the beginning, there's like an office in the castle somewhere and different things like that. Like, have you heard of that sort of stuff? And obviously,
Well,
if you're not allowed to talk about it, you don't have to. But like, what's some of the things that you were privy to that other guests wouldn't know? Um, that sort of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, that's a good question, and there's not a whole lot I like quote unquote can't talk about, especially because I haven't like started working for Disney yet. My college program starts on the 12th, and I mean it I have one, a couple years ago, but
Mm-hmm.
one thing to understand is I also am just a college program person, so I don't exactly have like top level knowledge of everything.
Sure, sure, of
One
course.
thing about Cinderella's Castle, there is a apartment in there, and I'm pretty sure it's a really long wait list to get in to the apartment. But it's or not an apartment, like you can't live there, but it's like a hotel suite, and
Mm-hmm.
I think you can basically get on a wait list to stay in there, but I think it's just super long. And there's a little door out of the side of Cinderella's castle that you use to exit. Um, I don't know if there's an apartment building in there. No idea. Another thing that you know if this was like a super huge podcast, I probably wouldn't say this, but because you're not gonna have you don't have like millions of viewers. If you go up to a custodian and you just say,
Be
"I want,"
careful.
oh, fair enough. Yeah, this could
It
blow
is
up, man.
going on. It is going on the internet.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, yeah,
To your
we can
point.
talk. We can talk. Actually, I think here I'll ask you this, and you can say yes or no. I saw a video. I think it was in Disneyland, Japan, maybe, of some custodian playing Under the Sea with his like Swiffer duster on the railing. Is that what you were about to say?
No, I mean that's cool, but no.
Oh, I don't. Was that a thing? Did you learn how to do that?
Definitely, okay, we definitely did not learn how to use our broom as an instrument. One thing we did learn though is
You know the video I'm talking about, though.
no, I
It
don't.
was like a Vine or a Vine or like a real short. It came out like
That sounds sick. I'd love it. I wish I
maybe
knew
like
how to do
5 years ago or something like that. And he just goes up to like this railing, like you know the railings on the outside of the sidewalks.
that.
And I guess there's a spot where like when he hits the railing,
It
it
changes
like makes a musical tone
right.
or whatever. And so he just goes through the thing and
That's so sick.
plays Under the Sea. I'll send it
I'm
to
gonna
you
find that.
after.
Yeah, definitely send it to me. But anyway, so what we learned as custodians, what they taught us was how to paint um different or different Disney characters with our broom and our dustpan. And it's a very interesting sort of thing that happens. So basically, what it is we use water and our broom is like our paintbrush, and then our
Mm.
dustpan we use it to hold a bunch of water in. So we'll fill our dustpan up with water, and then you grab your broom, you dip it in the dustpan, and then you can paint. I learned how to paint Mickey, Minnie, and I think Goofy. But there was like you could paint those three. You could I think paint Donald and Daisy. I think you could paint Simba. I think you'd be taught that, but it's kind of a certification type thing because
Mm.
again, kind of the way Disney runs things is tight ship. You have to be certified to paint, these guys in the park, because if guests come up and they see, oh, this custodian is going to paint Mickey Mouse, and it just looks atrocious, like that's
Yeah,
just
they don't
it,
want that.
yeah, exactly, a terrible look. So that was one thing that we learned that was really cool, and I wasn't great at it. I think I got certified for like Mickey because that was literally what was funny is the order of like characters' popularity kind of coincided with the order of their difficulty to draw. So Mickey was the easiest, then I think Minnie, and then Goofy. But Goofy was a little harder because he has like different sort of different face shape. Mickey's and
Yeah.
Minnie's is very circular, but Goofy's kind of has like the oval kind of thing going on, and then Donald and Daisy, and then like I said, I think Simba you could do. I think maybe you could do Stitch as well, but I'm not totally sure. So that was one of the cool things we got to do as custodians, yeah, of the menu. But
And you can
the
just
other thing I was going to say was if you see a custodian in a Disney park and I don't really know how nobody really ever approached me and asked me for a fast pass. I mean, my friends, and if my friends were in the park, I was like, yeah, I'll just take you over to what ride do you want to go on? I'll take you over there. But if you see a custodian in a park and I mean, you say, hey, me and my family are looking to go on Expedition Everest, but the line's pretty long. Do you think you get us a fast pass? Generally, the custodians can just say yes. Like there was some rides that were very popular. Like, do you know what Pandora is?
How new is that? The last time I went to Disney World was like probably 8 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, definitely after that. You know the movie Avatar, like with the
Hmm.
blue people.
Yeah.
So that's the part of Pandora is where they all lived, right? Where all like the blue
Right.
people lived.
Yeah,
And
I
so
remember they added that in there.
exactly, yeah. So they made a park. They made or part of their park of Animal Kingdom is Pandora, and um, Flight of Passage is kind of like the ride there. You know, it's just like the best ride that is at
Hmm.
Pandora, and it's super popular. Literally, would have like in the summer months when Disney was the most poppin', 200-minute waits. Like it was
Jeez,
insane.
man.
Yeah, so long. So if you wanted a fast pass on that one, we wouldn't necessarily be able to do because we would ask the people who are running the ride, and they say honestly, there's too many people in the fast pass. Like it's already 200-minute wait regular queue. Like we
Yeah,
and it's probably maxed out on the fast pass side of things. So you couldn't always do that, but for most other rides, yeah, if you ask a custodian, they should be able to help you out, get you on.
that's a cool thing. I didn't know that. That's one of
Yeah,
those things that's like people that have been going to, like, I have an aunt and uncle that go
every year.
every year, close to it, every other year, something like that. And they came with us the first time that we went because I have four
Sure.
siblings. And
Mhm.
so it was like 10 years ago, and
Dang.
I'm the oldest. So
Yeah,
it was like lots of little kids. My aunt and uncle were like, "Yeah, just get fast passes for this and fast passes for this," and they were just running around like they knew all the ins and outs of the
that's
park.
cool.
I was like, "You
That's
guys
good
are
to have people
absolute
there like
pros."
that.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
for
man.
sure,
Disney
because
could
they
be a
know.
serious animal, man.
Oh, for sure, because we didn't even know that fast passes existed when we went down there at all. It's
Yeah,
like also I was like 12, but
fair
or
enough.
14 or
Well, yeah,
whatever.
well, that's not your
But
job as a
yeah,
12 year
no,
old
of
or
course
14
not.
year old.
Of course not. But just generally speaking, to have that sort of, it maximizes, I feel like, your enjoyment of the park.
Yeah. Well, because
To
you don't
just,
want to spend half your day waiting in a queue line.
nah, absolutely not. That's not fun. You could do that at Six Flags.
No, yeah, exactly. That's the thing, man.
Yeah. So what is the, so obviously you enjoyed it the first time. And
Yeah,
so
I'm going back.
you're going back. And what do you sort of hope to get out of the program now that you've been there? Is there a reason that, like most people, I feel like, at least how I would look at that internship or program, it would be like a one and done sort of thing. But you clearly
Sure.
see that there's more potential there for you. So, what sort of things do you see for yourself there that maybe others don't, or kind of walk us through that thought process?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, man. To get a little personal, I didn't, graduating college as a communications major. I didn't necessarily know where I was going. I had a few kind of irons in the fire. I got my real estate salesperson license, and I gave that a try. It was okay, maybe in the future, but not really a good time. When I did it, I was still in college. It was actually right after my first program. When I came back, it was because I needed to finish. I needed to basically start working as a real estate agent, or my education was going to expire, my real estate education. So I had to cut my program short. But kind of coming out of college as a communications major, I'm not bio, I'm not nursing, I'm not like English or being a teacher or anything like that. So I didn't really know where exactly I was going to go. And with Disney, one thing I really like about them is that they are very good from everybody I've talked to and people I've seen. They're very good about hiring from the inside, and they will move you up. If you're a good employee with a company, they will give you opportunities to work your way up with the company. And I've always been a fan of Disney, the place itself, because I feel like they're one of the only entities in the world that kind of create a different world for you to live in. You know what I mean? It's like it's not like a movie where you go in for 2 hours and you watch a movie. Okay, you suspend your belief and enjoy the
Mhm.
movie, and then you leave. It's literally a whole world, and I think it's also a place that puts the highest has some of the highest standards of guest experience, and that's something I like because I just I want a job where I feel like I'm making a difference for people every day, and I feel like with Disney I can definitely do that. I mean, even even for people that maybe aren't in Disney, I feel like if I was to continue to work my way up with them, I could make a difference with, whether it be like sort of underprovided for neighborhoods or different things. Disney just gives you has opportunities to help not only guests in the park but just people outside of the park because they're such a global entity. And with them, I mean, I really enjoyed my program, and knowing that they hire from the inside and you can work your way up with them, I just decided, I wanted to go back, and I didn't have anything else really calling my name, so I just decided, I'd give it a try going again.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's definitely something that I know a lot of people that I've talked to have a similar sort of goal. Like they want to help people, make people's days better, etc. And it's not always clear what the best is not the right word, but the right path for that to do that
Yeah,
is. And so
yeah,
everybody kind of has their own idea of, what, maybe I can make the biggest difference this way. Like for me, it might be coaching soccer, and for you, it might be
definitely.
working at Disney. And
Mhm.
so that's a good thing that you've kind of. And to be honest, the first time you did it, I was like, well, if there was going to be anyone that was going to do that, it would have been you. To be honest, you have the
Oh, man.
personality and the
Thank you.
sort of like the presence for that, I think.
I appreciate
Um,
it. Thank you.
and one of the things that you were doing that led me to that belief, besides just me knowing you as a person, was the sort of content creation side of things
Yeah.
that you have partaken in. I think you were doing TikToks a while ago, but you've recently picked that back up again. And I
Mhm.
know it was with the intent that it was going to be sort of Disney centric content. It's kind of shifted a little bit, I think, into just more general short form content.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yep.
when I watch some of these, I'm often left with like a that's funny and like obvious, not the right word. Like for example, the when dads get angry one.
Yeah.
It's like, duh, they all do that, but I would never have thought to like put it together in that way.
Mhm.
So like, where does
Yeah.
your so like you've got the personality for it, but where does the sort of the inspiration for that come from? The sort of the creativity to say, hey, you know what, on this last one, I'm gonna be really emphatic and say you're pushing it and do like all the stuff with it. And like, where does that sort of come from for you?
Oh, man. I mean, with content creation as a whole, and sort of, I'm sure this also plays a part with me going to Disney in general, wanting to work for Disney. I've been in theater since I was little. Like I was in elementary school and I gave theater a try, and then I kind of stuck with it through really freshman year of college. But first year of college, I auditioned for a show and I got a call back, and then I ended up getting cut. But in the whole process, I saw how much time it would have taken to be in the show because they gave everybody at callbacks, they like gave everybody, okay, here's the auditions or the rehearsal schedule if you get in, and super time like restrictive. It was literally every single day there was something, and then the closer you got to the show, the more time things took. And I knew, playing basketball and hanging out with my friends and trying different things, being in campus recreation, all that kind of stuff, it just wasn't going to work. But I think that part of the reason I've enjoyed content creation and kind of gone back and forth with it a lot because it also takes up a lot of time if you want, and dedication, really time and dedication to stick with it, is because I did theater. And I mean, I enjoy making people laugh, honestly. I think it's a good thing. I think the reason I've stepped back from it some is because, to get a little philosophical, a little deeper, sometimes I catch myself placing too much of my basically basing too much of my happiness on whether or not I'm getting these likes or these comments or kind of the approval and validation of other people. And when I catch myself doing that, I don't really. It makes social media and being a content creator less appealing because it's like, I'm now basing my job or whatever this part of my life on whether or not other people like what I'm doing. But at the same time, I think it's just really fun to put the funny things that you do and the funny things you think of the entertaining things you think of on video. And I mean, it worked for me with TikTok. I ended up getting like 50,000 followers, which is pretty dope from a few different series I made. So
No, yeah, speaking personally, I definitely understand the sort of the likes and the views and whether or not people like it.
yeah,
And one of the things that I had to realize with the podcast, especially, and it's a little bit different given the length of the content. You're very
yeah,
short
right,
form, minute or
right,
two, whereas I'm more
absolutely, yeah,
hour or two. I realized very early that I am going to do or say things that people might not like or
hmm,
might not even that they might not like, that they just might not hit the like button or they might not agree or think it's funny or
sure,
whatever the case is. And it's kind of one of
absolutely.
those things where it's like, I'm going to do it because I like it. And if people want to watch it, they can. And if they
That's
don't,
the thing,
then
man.
that's fine too. And it took me a couple of episodes to kind of get that through my head. The first episode was Sammy and Izzy. I think they texted it to like everyone and their mother. But so that was super helpful because it was very supportive.
I'll
Generally,
do
the
the same,
feeling.
man.
Hmm?
I'll do the same.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. It was generally very supportive, and it helped with
Yeah,
that sort of like, you know what, this one went well, next one went well. I'm enjoying it.
yeah,
Eventually, one is not going to go so well
yeah,
because we're people, life happens, you make mistakes, whatever. It's
yeah.
like when
And I
that
mean, it's
happens.
kind of like with any content creation, it's just I was listening to this podcast with this guy named Josh Richards, really big TikToker, social media guy. But he says, the reason a lot of social or a lot of media creators, influencers, whatever you want to call it, stop doing what they do is because, or just end up sort of crashing, is because they get to their peak, they're doing really well, kind of hit a high point, and then as they're declining, right? Just because that's just like you're saying, then it's the natural course of things.
Mhm.
When they're declining, they're thinking, oh, I'm losing these followers. I'm not getting engagement. I'm not getting new followers. I need to change my brand and change who I am to get that back. And all that really does is make them lose even more people and make them not gain more people because they're not being authentic and they're not being who their followers followed them for.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sure you know this as somebody who partakes in the social media or content creation scene. Like when you have people that you follow, sometimes you just kind of like drop off. Like you get
Yeah.
busier and you're not able to follow them,
Hmm.
or you're not able to tune into as many videos or whatever.
Exactly.
And keeping that in the back of my mind is like, if something does better or worse, I'm not really offended is not the right word, but I don't really question it. And
Yeah.
maybe I should, right? There's things that I could do to sort of like maximize the algorithm or whatever,
Yeah.
but I don't really question it because it's like, okay, they someone's like whatever.
Definitely.
It's
I
like
mean,
if they have
it's what
time, they have
matters.
time. Exactly. And so the reason why I bring it up for you is because like I personally don't have a TikTok account, but Jenna does, and she sends me funny ones all the time. And yours are in line with like the hit ones that she sends me. And so when I watch yours, I'm like, man, this guy could go somewhere with some TikToks. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I
Yeah.
know that you can because you already did it. Um, but so yeah, I bring that up from the standpoint of like, what does the future hold for you with this? Because I know, like I said earlier, the intent was Disney centric creation with you going back to Disney World. Do you have a plan to sort of keep doing it, or are you kind of just kind of doing it for fun, or like what's your perspective on that moving forward?
It's a great question. And I think one kind of good piece of advice that I've heard, or well, not even that I've heard, but that I can honestly say is true, stays true to me, is you got to do it for fun. Because if it's not to say you don't take it seriously, there's obviously things to be said for making the right captions and making stuff that the algorithms will like, so to speak, on each individual app. But kind of back to what you were saying, if you're not doing what you're doing out of the enjoyment of doing it because you like making a podcast, because I enjoy making TikToks, it's not even the fact that people might or may not watch it, but you're not going to stick with it. For me, my biggest issue, I tried daily vlogging for about 2 weeks, around a year ago, and I couldn't stick with it because I didn't really like it. When I'm in my day to day, I didn't want to record things. I just liked experiencing them. And I think sort of the thing is with me and why I've noticed I haven't been as successful being able to stick with TikTok or YouTube or whatever else is because I was doing it because I wanted to be famous, or I was doing it because, like I said, I got validation from the likes. In reality, to do it and to stick with it and to make it actually something that matters, and honestly, the authenticity of you actually enjoying it, that show your viewers can sniff that out. If you're doing it because if you're trying to make people laugh, or if you're doing it because you want those likes or whatever else it is, your viewers will be able to see that. Whether it's conscious and they can just tell obviously or not, they'll know, okay, this guy's not being authentic. I don't want to follow him. So I think for me, the future, it depends a lot on kind of myself and where I am in regards to social media. I've kind of gone this past year or so on sort of a spiritual journey, just working on myself a lot and really trying to question my beliefs and my thought patterns and things. And in doing that, again, I found stuff like I'm getting too much validation from these likes and these different things. And I think with doing social media is definitely a possibility in the future. Cause like I say, when I got 50,000 followers on TikTok, I was literally just BSing around on a consistent basis, but I was just recording TikToks like each day of funny things that I thought of. And I ended up getting a bunch of followers off that because I think people just liked that I was authentic and that I was creating stuff that I thought was funny and that apparently 50,000 other people, however many people thought was too. And I think that for any creator, that's what gets you going and that's what keeps you going is authenticity and showing that as much as it's a nice plus that I'm here and that you guys are watching me and maybe I'm getting money from this or X, Y, or Z, but you know, you're doing it because you enjoy doing it and because you're just being yourself while you do it.
Yeah, 100%. I think I would add one more thing to why you got 50,000 followers, because you have the personality for it. That's like
Thanks, man.
people get drawn to it. It's like I don't I'm not one to send or share like memes or TikToks. But as you and I both know, I've shared a couple of yours, and that's because I'm like, dude, that's hilarious. And it's one of those things where the to your point about you have to enjoy it. It's like this sort of, if you were to make this into a part-time job or something like that,
Even full
the
time.
or even yeah, going even full-time, the only person that's going to make you do it is you. So if you
That's
don't
right.
like it, like you don't have a boss that's like, hey, you got to show up at 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like you are your boss. And so if you don't
Mhm.
like it, and I think John Mulaney is the
Yeah.
comedian.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's got one bit, and is like he was like, why would I do that thing when it's so much easier to just not do it?
Yeah.
And it's
Facts.
that's
Yeah.
what it is. Like if you don't,
That's a perfect like analogy for
yeah,
TikTok or for social media. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so you're the only one that's making you do it. It's like I'm the only one that made me reach out to you, turn on the camera and the mic and record this.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to reach out to you, but then there would have been no
You wouldn't
podcast
have had the
on
episode for the next
yeah, there
couple
would
of
have
weeks.
been exactly. And so if you don't enjoy it, I feel like people start it, they're like, oh, I want to be famous. Like you said, they're like, I could be, what's his name, Bryce Hall or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Bryce Hall. That's
Yeah.
so Josh Richards, the guy I mentioned, is like
Hmm.
Bryce Hall's like other. You know what I'm saying? They're like best
Hmm.
friends. They're always
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. It's like I could be them. It's like,
Yeah. Well, that's
well,
the thing, man. That's
you could be them
they
if you
caught
do
up
it
doing
every
it.
day for like years and years and years, and you get lucky. It's like you got to do it because you like it. Like the
Yeah.
chances of you being them are
Slim to none.
slim to none. All right, you
Yeah.
got to get lucky. You have to stick with it. You have
And I mean, on
to
that point, man, why would you want to be them? You know, just like we're saying,
exactly.
if you want to be authentic and you want to do this, then you need to do it from with your own personality being who you are. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, viewers will sniff it right out if you're trying to be like someone else.
100%. And I feel like people don't understand what that life actually entails.
Dude, they don't. They don't. Because what's tough is generally when you start seeing these influencers, it's when they've blown up. Because when do
Mm-hmm.
they get promoted to you? Well, when they get promoted to you, which means that they're being promoted to many people, which means that they're blowing up. And yeah, it seems like a super like, oh man, that's so awesome. He's creating on his own, all this stuff. I got a good friend, his name's Jojo, and he blew. I mean, he's pretty big at this point on social media. He's got like 60,000 on YouTube, and uh, getting close to a million on TikTok. So and he's blown up. But back in 2019, when I did my first Disney college program, we both kind of started at that time, and I just kind
Mhm.
of tapered off, stopped doing the social media stuff, and he stuck with it. And he worked his tail off these past couple of years to get to where he is, and he still is. I mean, he
Mhm.
literally will make damn near daily videos, and that's hard. It's hard. I was talking to him about it, staying up till 4 a.m. and editing. That's not what you see when you go on YouTube and
Nope.
you see a million subscribers. Okay. You just see the cool stuff they did. You don't see staying up till 4 a.m. You don't see probably, it's staying up till 4 a.m. and then probably starting your job or whatever else it is, 4 hours later,
Mhm.
or hardly making enough money to get by. If like when you first start going full time, let's say you want to do social media full time and you just start, but it costs money and you're not making that much off the start. So
Yeah,
there's
you're
a lot to it.
scraping by. You got to have enough saved to kind of, and I know we're sort of running short on time. We'll get you out of here.
Okay.
But you're kind of scraping by. You have to have enough saved up to sort of make that jump. And then, like you said, you're working so hard to do it. And speaking, and I know you know this, but we tried to do sort of weekly podcasts at one point, but the amount of scheduling time that it took to find people to get on, to actually
Yeah.
schedule it, then because it's long to get sort of the clips ready to go and then to get everything edited and then have to go back to those people for like their bio and a picture or whatever.
Absolutely.
And sometimes people are like, oh, well, you can't use this picture or that picture. And then like you have people reaching out to you for different things. It's like, so we ended up being with this schedule where it's like we're doing it 3 times a month, which I feel like is a good balance. It's like
That's a good
consistent
number.
enough.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
it's like
consistent enough.
bi-weekly, but it's not weekly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like nine. It's the 9th, 18th, and 27th. So it's 9 days in between each one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not like weekly or daily at all, but
Yeah.
doing like to do this sort of thing daily where you need guests to kind of do it, you have to be on a level where you can just reach out to whoever and they'll say yes,
Yeah. I mean,
like
well,
a
dude, that's
Rogan or like a Jordan Peterson or like somebody at that
exactly.
level.
I'm sure it's tough from a podcast perspective
Hmm.
because yeah, you're not like some huge personality who's like, oh yeah, Kevin Hart or Jordan Peter. I mean, any of you guys, you want to come on the podcast? Like,
Hmm.
no, it's you got to find people around you with interesting stories and stuff come from there.
Exactly, and that's difficult because then I can go down like my list of people that I talk to, and like some of them I'll be like, oh yeah, for sure, and then others I'd be like what do
What are
you
you? Yeah, what are you gonna bring
like
to the
what are
table?
you going to bring to the table? And it's like it might sound harsh, but at the same time it's like you're trying to create interesting content for people. And so as we've kind of
Exactly.
branched out a little bit, keeping track of all these people that we've reached out to, they
Mhm.
say, oh, maybe we can do it in 2 weeks. It's like, all right, we need to follow up with them. Did we follow up with them? Did we not follow up with them? It's like keeping
Yeah,
track of all this stuff and then getting it all
yeah,
scheduled and recorded so Dylan has enough time to get the edits done before it goes out. It's like there's a lot
absolutely.
that goes on behind the scenes that, like you were saying, like to do daily videos, like some of these guys that do, like there are FIFA YouTubers that'll do like 3 times a day on 3 different
That's
channels.
absurd.
Yeah.
Absurd, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when I would watch some gaming videos back in the day, and it's like, God, they would promote it, be like, hey, uploading twice a day now. How? And I mean, frankly, you got to think about your own just well-being. You're going to be
Mhm.
sitting imagine the amount of time you are spending sitting in front of your computer or your monitor and you're either gaming or editing. Like it's mind-numbing to me. That's part of why I like YouTube and the more short form stuff I've found more interest in it is because it's a
Mhm.
lot less editing. Sitting in front of my freaking when I was trying daily vlogs, I got about 2 weeks in and I couldn't do it anymore because I'm sitting in front of my computer 5 hours a day for a 5 minute video. And then the rest of the day, I need to spend recording content. And it's like, it's very difficult.
Mhm. And it's just this cycle, and like so you need the amount of time to do it, which
Yeah.
amounts to a full-time job for
Mhm.
not full-time job money.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
it's tough. Like the people that have really made it, like hats off to them, man. It's like, because that's no joke, and they have to
'Cause, yeah,
really like it, and they have to really kind of put their mind to it. And
yeah, you go. I mean, that's the thing. It seems great that, just like we were saying, awesome that they are where they are. Go listen to their story and then decide if you want to follow their path. Listen to how they started and what they had to do to get here. Because I was actually listening to a different podcast. It's called the School of Greatness podcast. If you ever heard of it, but it's super cool. This guy was talking about um, just it was some different just psychological things to improve your life type deal. And one
Mhm.
thing he mentioned was, I can't remember what exactly the method was called, but basically human beings have a habit of when they envision their goal, it's like the stuff you hear about with manifesting. We
Sure.
think about that end awesome result, right? So you want the easiest way to explain it. You want to go to the gym. You think about, all right, I'm gonna have a six pack body. I'm gonna look so amazing. What we, that's the stuff we envision in our heads. What we should be envisioning is when the day comes when I don't want to get up and I don't feel like going to the gym, what am I gonna do? Because when we start imagining we have those things, we have the six pack body, we have the big biceps, whatever else, we start to get the feeling we like in our body that we already have them, and we kind of fulfill our need by imagining that we already have it. What we should be envisioning, right, manifesting, thinking about is, what am I going to do when things hit the fan? Because they will, whether it be that, whether it be being a vlogger or an influencer. When I have to go record and I don't have any content, but I need to make some and I don't want to, what am I going to do? Because when you ask yourself that question and you can legitimately and honestly say, I will be able to break through that wall, then you got something. Then you might actually be dedicated enough to make that happen.
Yeah, 100%. I think one last anecdote, and then we can sort of, how much more time do you have?
We can do like 5, 10 more minutes.
All right, cool. I think one last anecdote to that specifically is that sort of is a, you can apply that to just the rest of your life, generally speaking, whether it's influencing fitness,
Yeah.
like sticking to different goals and plans and like diets you have or
What
whatever
kind
the
of
case
work?
may
Yeah.
be.
Diet. Yeah. All
Yeah,
that stuff.
all that stuff. It's like, do I really like, I could have this ice cream cone or I could not. I
Dude,
really want it.
that's
It's like,
perfect. Yeah.
yeah, it's and you can apply that to every sort of aspect of your life.
Mhm.
And like John Mulaney says, it's so much easier to not to
Yeah.
do
But
that
and that's
thing.
and that's the thing. That's the thing. And it's funny in the podcast, like in that episode. Do you know what the secret is? Like, have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
Do you know what the law of attraction is that people talk about?
Yeah.
How, okay, you think you imagine you have something and it comes. Dude literally called it bullshit. Like excuse my French, but literally was like all this law of attraction bullshit. Because he was saying when you imagine you have these things or you're gonna get them, you are satiating the desire and the hunger psychologically in yourself to go get them. And that's
Mm.
why we really need to imagine more, what's it gonna be like when I don't feel like, when I want that ice cream cone, but I know if I do, I'm gonna go over my calories for today. Situations like that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that because I know a lot of these sort of, and I've learned this because Jenna's a psychologist, or she's got her degree in
Well,
psychology. She's going for her master's in psychology as well.
very good.
Um, that a lot of these sort of like rules that people say aren't actually based in like any sort of psychological research or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she gets irritated with them, even if they like seem true. Like to us, you're like, oh, that makes sense. It's like, well, there's no research. It's like, so
Well,
I've had to learn
that's
to kind
pretty
of do
good.
my own research to be like, okay, where did this actually come from? Like the law of attraction thing, or like it, whether it's true or not, or like
Yeah.
where did this come from, etc. And it's like kind of, I don't know. This is not super related, but yeah, generally speaking, no, human psychology and just like motivation and stuff is super cool. And I
Yeah,
need to
dude.
get somebody on to like talk about that sort of thing. But I think one last question, then we'll get you out of here. What's the future hold for you? So you're going to the Disney college program again. Then give me like a year to 3 year sort of, if everything goes right, where are you at?
Right. So First things first, I have a year lease, right? So like I said, I'm not living on Disney property. Me and a couple friends are moving into an apartment that's 15 minutes from Disney. But so I'm there for at least a year, and I expect that I'll be down there even longer, if all goes to plan. Start out with Disney College program, right? I'm gonna move in there and start my program July 12th is the exact day. And basically, gonna start working whatever position I do, and I'm gonna try to be like a really solid employee because I want to put myself in the best position to move up. And Disney has a few different routes that I'm really interested in. They have a guest experience team, and I don't. There's a guest relations team and guest experience. One of them is the ones in Plaid that do celebrity tour guides. That would be really cool if I got to do that. The other one works more like day to day with guests and kind of gets information from them, like what are you enjoying about your experience today, what could be improved about your experience today. It's kind of what's cool about it is that they're in the park finding these things out, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
they're asking them questions during their day, which is really cool because it's like we're not sending you a postcard after saying, hey, fill out this survey for us. It's during the day. Hey, what's going on right now, what's good, what's bad, what can we fix. I really like both of those things because they involve a lot of guest interaction, and that's what I'm there for. It's what I want to do. And that, so in the years following my program is set to end in January. So, in the years following that, I'm just hoping to move up with Disney, and, whether it be in my position specifically. So just kind of a little bit more intel on the Disney position system. Let's say I start as a custodian, I can go from just a regular custodian to a coordinator. Coordinator is like the next step up. Basically, um, I don't know all their roles, like everything they do specifically, but they're kind of the person you call if, hey, this guest is kind of, acting out, they're being mean, or I don't know how to do this. Can you help me do this? X, Y, or Z. They're the person above, uh, and they'll like lead a team of custodians, and then above a coordinator is a leader. A leader runs like I think like an entire day of shifts kind of thing, and they'll be walking around the parks not even in a custodial uniform, like they'll walk around in a suit kind of thing, so that again, whatever is kind of in a direction where I can move up, make more money, but also have more impact and also interact with people. I think at the end of the day, if I'm able to interact with either the same, like a lot of people, but also have a lot of impact, that's kind of just the direction I want to go with Disney. So if it's being a coordinator or a leader, or if it's working with guest services or guest relations, I think any of those routes would be good. And then, I mean, just keep moving up and we'll kind of see, where things go from there.
Sounds good, man. Where can everybody find you and your content?
You can find me Zane Burk, ZaneBurk on Instagram and TikTok.
Sounds good, man. Everybody go check him out. We'll put those links in the description. It was great to have you on. I appreciate your time. And we will hopefully we'll get you back on at some point in the near future. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think we had to cut it short, obviously, but hopefully the next one can go a little bit longer.
Absolutely, Eric. Thanks, my man. World
Of
XP.
course.
Check them out, follow, all that good stuff. Thanks, man. Thanks for having
Sounds
me.
good. Bye, everybody.